This is the Mariners POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Seattle Mariners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The worst part about this job, and I love this job to be clear, but the worst part about this job is that I have to ignore how good this offense has been for the last 5 games. I believe it's 5. Yeah, 5. And just dunk on it. The NBA draft is happening right now, so we've got to dunk on this Mariners offense. Mariners lose 2-0 to the Minnesota Twins. They still lead the series 2-1, but this was an ugly offensive effort. My name is Christopher Crawford, hosting today. Anders is enjoying some much-deserved time off. We're going to talk about a really strong start from George Kirby, an inept offensive effort, one that we have seen all too many times from the Seattle Mariners, but admittedly, not a ton lately. And we'll talk about an unsung villain. There's a few candidates for this game, but there's one person in particular that I keep coming back to. Just for those unfamiliar, we go live every single Seattle Mariner game. Well, we go live after every single Seattle Mariner game to talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Make sure you're staying tuned for Ty and Colby. They do the daily show, and they do a fantastic job. We sure would appreciate you hitting like. We sure would appreciate you subscribing if you haven't yet. But let's start with George Kirby, because I thought George Kirby pitched exceptionally today and deserved better than the result he gets. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, just the 3 strikeouts. But I thought this was the best command that I have seen from George Kirby so far. Maybe outside of that 14 strikeout effort, so we'll take that away. It was certainly an improvement on what we've seen for the overwhelming majority of George Kirby starts, and deserved better. Now, let's just get this out of the way. 6 innings, 90 pitches. Should George Kirby have pitched the 7th inning? And my good buddy Anders, taking a little bit of a break from enjoying life, text me and asked me the same question. I will tell you this, and this is just my personal opinion, just the way I saw things. I didn't have an issue with it. I thought they were starting to get to him in the 6th inning, and I didn't have a problem with him coming out. It's certainly not the reason they lost the game either. Eduardo Bizzardo gives up that home run, and, maybe you're managing a little different, or you're attacking offensively a little bit differently, but I think that you can argue either way. I wouldn't have had an issue with him coming in, but he was getting hard in the 6th hit, getting hit hard, in the 6th inning. Buxton got one. The RBI to drive in Buxton was a hard hit ball through the middle. Would I have hated him pitching the 7th inning? No, but I don't hate it. I don't hate what the decision making, I don't hate the process, of the decision making of having him pitch. And, Eduardo Bizzardo gives up that home run. It wasn't a bad pitch. It was middle, but it was on the outer part of the plate, and Cody Clemens showed off some pop, took that ball out to left field, and he pitched well outside of that. Eduardo Bizzardo, it's tough to get too mad at him. He's been a really solid part of the Seattle Mariner bullpen, and a nice job from Trent Thornton as well. One of his better outings I think we've seen since returning from the injured list. Still has that ugly 6.08 ERA. It's going to take a while for him to, and as Brian points out, the pitching was fine today. It's very hard to win when you score 0 runs. Very difficult. But just back to Kirby, this was encouraging. This was an encouraging outing from Kirby that reminded me of not that 14 strikeout effort. We're just not going to see a lot of those type of games from George Kirby or any other starter. But this is the most I've seen him look like the 2024 version. And that's what we want, right? We want the 2024. The 2023 version would be the absolute best. But this was an encouraging outing. He had them off balance for most of the game. 6th inning, things start to fall apart a little bit. Byron Buxton is just an absolute wagon. You're not going to keep him off base for very long. And then Willie Castro just hates the Seattle Mariners. Willie Castro just hates the Seattle Mariners. There was a lot of talk about Jerry Dipoto potentially trading for Willie Castro, he should have done it just so he couldn't have faced the Mariners. That's absolutely the only reason why he's kidding against him. Now, Willie Castro is a solid player. Was just dealing with some injury stuff. But, and by the way, really appreciate everybody who's coming out. Sorry if I'm not getting to everybody's comments today. I'm still working on being comfortable launching the stuff that we do in this show. Those of you who are familiar with how I used to do things know that it was very bare bones. There's a lot of fancy stuff here because, you know, Locked On's a much better company than the company that I was working for, aka myself. But I thought the pitching was good tonight. You know, Bizzardo gives up the home run. Kirby gives up that run in the 6th inning, but it wasn't the pitching fault. It wasn't the pitcher's fault at all. We'll go over whose fault it is in just one sec. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And we're going to start by thanking Monarch Money. And if you've ever wished that managing your money felt easier, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in position to push you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, gives you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money is much more than a budgeting app. It's complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. Like, the fact that you can just like put everything together in one thing is the big thing for me. Like, instead of having to open 14 different apps to manage my assets or my finances, like assets is a weird way to put it, but yeah, sure. All of my financial stuff is just in one place. And that is why I am such a fan of Monarch Money. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money as well. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first order. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike those usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. The effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to rougiette.com/lockedonmlb and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/lockedonmlb and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 50% off. All right, let's talk about this offense. And look, it's hard to get too mad at an offense that is, I believe somebody brought up they've scored like 50 runs over the first 5 games. Yeah, it's obviously his as I know Victor can play first. It's obvious Cal's fault for not hitting home runs today. That's selfish, man. He should be homering every single game. Yeah. And Matthew, that's really well put. The opposite of arousal is right. This Mariner offense stunk today. And it wasn't just one player. It was the entire offense. 2 guys get on twice. Julio gets a hit. And, you know, it counts in his speed. Like Carlos Correa said, nope, not even going to try to make that throw. And he gets hit by a pitch. I was extremely upset he got hit by a pitch for a lot of reasons. The biggest one being that he was hit by a pitch on a 3-2 pitch, so he didn't walk. So it hurts his walk rates. And, you know, I think this is an interesting point. I saw a couple of you people bring this up that Shanae says they look tired. Maybe like you're playing on a long road trip without a day off and your offense maybe just was a little bit exhausted. Now, I also want to give some credit to Joe Ryan as well. Joe Ryan's a very solid pitcher, a ERA of 2.86 now, 6 innings, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts. He's a good one. He's the best pitcher that they've faced in this road trip by far. That doesn't completely excuse the offensive effort though, right? There was just so little traffic, and the few times that they did have traffic, they just didn't really have a shot. They end up going 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Polanco 0 for 1, Mastrobuoni 0 for 1, and Big Dumper 0 for 1 as well. But all of these guys struggled. Like Randy Rosarina gets on twice, gets caught stealing for the first time. I didn't mind him running there. Christian Vasquez is a fantastic defensive catcher. Julio should have been caught stealing as well. Ends up being safe because Carlos Correa doesn't make a play he normally makes. Miles Mastrobuoni was really bad. Donovan Solano had his worst offensive game in a while. Luke Raley in particular struggled. And I thought about going with Luke Raley. I thought about going with him as my unsung villain for today. But I hate doing this. And I could have gone with Big Dumper as well. He goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. One of those strikeouts shouldn't happen after Julio walked / got hit, because it was a 3-2 pitch. I'm counting it as a walk for him. Nobody else will, but I will. After that 3-2 pitch that walks Julio, Big Dumper does an excellent job laying off a pitch that was clearly a ball. And folks, I could talk about it every game. Those of you who are familiar with my work know that I want to talk about it every game. The umpiring tonight behind the plate was pathetic. Pathetic. And the sooner we get them robots, the sooner I feel better. The sooner I feel better, because these guys just aren't it. And it's not even their fault. We have a system that is created to help these guys. Let's do it. Let's do it. And I won't go quite this far. Dankbud says that the strike 3 could have blown the whole game. Honestly, it certainly didn't help, because you got runners on first and second with 1 out. And how much better are you feeling, right? Then Jorge Polanco lines out, and then you got Randy, who I think got a hit that next at bat. I could be wrong, but give us the challenges. Give us the ability to, and the reason why we don't have the challenges is twofold. It's that the umpires have too much power. And number 2, the worry about the adding of length of games. I don't care. I don't care. And Sushi Dude brings up, I agree the umpires suck, but I don't like the idea of getting rid of them. We're not getting rid of them. To be fair, we're not just completely automizing. We are putting people in a better position. You still need umpires at first base, second base, third base. You can even have them behind home plate if you want. But you got to have a challenge system. You've got to have a challenge system. Cal looked really mad, as somebody brings up as well. Cal looked extremely mad. Okay, my unsung villain for tonight, though, J.P. Crawford was awful. Easily the worst offensive game I have seen from Crawford in a long time. And it just goes to show you that when they go, we have Julio, JP, Big Dumper, and Jorge Polanco combined to go 1 for 14 with 2, 3, 6, 7 strikeouts. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You're relying on those guys so much. And to be fair, JP Crawford made a couple of nice defensive plays. Not enough. Not enough to overcome with the fact that, and you know what? If you want to go with the home plate umpire being the unsung villain, as a few of you have, that's totally fair as well. But goodness gracious, just a really rough game from him. And you could go with the entire offense. Now, do I completely ignore what happened over the previous 5 games? Absolutely not. But here's my thing that I ultimately come down to with this offense. And as Dankbud brings up, they can still get 3 or 4 tomorrow with a win. Hopefully that game gets played. Apparently there's going to be some weather issues. I was honestly a little shocked this game got in today. It was just absolutely, whatting rain. There's the nice way to put it. The thing I see with this offense is I see the ceiling. We've seen the ceiling, and it's a high ceiling. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that the ceiling of this offense is extremely high. We also know the floor of this offense is pretty flippin' low, right? We've seen what it can be at its worst. And do you have to give credit to Joe Ryan? Yes. Do you have to note that if you score 50 runs over 5 games or whatever the heck the total is, that you're going to have some downtrodden offensive efforts too? Yes. but we've seen it a lot. We've seen this movie over and over and over again. This was disappointing. This was disappointing, and disappointing doesn't mean that it's devastating. It doesn't mean that they are in trouble. It just means that you watch this offense sometimes and you wonder if they can be consistent enough to be a true title contender. And I think this is a great point here for my buddy Brian. The trade deadline should be all about raising the floor of this team. That's perfectly said, because we know the ceiling. We know the ceiling because of how good Big Dumper has been, how well-rounded of a game Julio gives you. JP Crawford, even though he's my unsung villain tonight, has been a fantastic player. I was just talking to a buddy. They're on pace to have 3 players finish with over 6 wins, according to One is Above Replacement. When's the last time you could say that about a Mariner team? And Randy Rosarina, depending on what service you're using, is right in that 4 to 5 win range too. But it's the drop after that. It's the drop after that. And today we saw that these other guys just can't carry. Carry's maybe too strong of a word, but can't supplement this offense when those guys aren't playing well. Bummer. I will be back tomorrow, assuming there is a game. Again, we really appreciate all of the views. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate you guys subscribing. I've had a blast doing this. I miss my buddy Anders, of course, but yeah, it's a little nostalgic for those of you who know what I used to do. So that's been fun. What's not fun is talking about another 0. My grandma, I'm going to call her today, and she's going to be just furious. She hates these zeros. But I love you guys, and hopefully they score a bunch of runs tomorrow, and we can forget about this one, right?